The Tunguska Fireball. This looks like a nonfiction passage, so I'm going to skim read it, starting by reading the first paragraph in more detail. On June 30th, 1908, an enormous fireball shot across the sky and exploded high above the remote Tunguska River Valley. In the Siberian region of Russia, 20 miles away, huts were flattened and the people were flung into the air. Villagers 40 miles away felt the heat and heard explosions, and tremors were recorded at a German seismic station more than 3,000 miles away. Okay, so what are they telling us here? There was a huge event. It was some kind of fireball that was big. It affected things 40 miles away, knocked down trees, caused seismographs to go off in Germany. Okay? Paragraph 2. What caused the intense light and the horrendous destruction of the Tunguska fireball? So the rest of paragraph 2 is going to be an answer to the question, what caused this fireball? Scientists and lay people have debated the question for 100 years. By the way, I notice the structure here. Paragraph 3 is going to say other scientists, amateur astronomers, and the public suggested alternate theories of what happened. Paragraph 4, for many years, Russian scientists believed the fireball was a comet. Paragraph 5, many Western scientists believe that a meteorite was responsible. Paragraph 6, during the 90s, an Italian physicist became interested. And that's our final paragraph. So this gives me a broad overview of what's going on. There are several potential answers to the question, what caused this Tunguska fireball? So now I want to read a little more closely. I want to read some of the details for each explanation. So in paragraph 2, in 1927, so it took a while, almost 20 years, a Russian scientist reached the remote site. He discovered a vast region of scorched earth and downed trees, their trunks pointing away from the center of the blast. He was convinced that a meteorite was responsible. He searched for evidence, but he never found it. Okay? So that's one theory. Other scientists suggested alternative theories. They said some thought it was an earthquake, perhaps a black hole. Basically, these guys had no idea whatsoever. It definitely wasn't a spaceship, okay? Number 4, Russian scientists believe it was a comet. Why? A cluster of dust and frozen gases that exploded a few hundred feet above the ground. They pointed to the lack of meteoric evidence and the June 30th date, a time of year when the Earth was passing through cometary debris. So that might be reasonable. If we're passing through cometary debris, maybe it was a comet, okay? Others disagreed, okay? Well, the others who disagreed would have been maybe among the Western scientists. They believed a meteorite was responsible, but they really didn't have any evidence. The pattern of fallen trees suggests that they were knocked down by a blast 4 miles above the ground. That's consistent with a meteoric blast. Yet, contrasting, repeated searches of the website in the wetlands revealed no evidence. Again, they didn't really have evidence, but they thought it was a meteor. 6, so we had the Italian physicist come look at this site. Hopefully he's going to answer all these questions. Galli had previously investigated whether particles from outer space add carbon atoms to cellulose in trees. Perhaps, so not certain, but perhaps we're questioning, the trees at the Tunguska site hid such extraterrestrial material. They analyzed the particles trapped in the trees, and the results were remarkable. Why? Because based on the studies of the tree rings, the time period when the fireball occurred, they found the resin contained high levels of high proton elements, such as copper, gold, and nickel. In fact, it contained 10 times the more such particles than resin during either before or after that period. What does this suggest? Well, this suggests a valid conclusion would be that these particles were from outer space. Some previously discovered meteorites had contained elevated levels of these elements, suggesting the particles had extra-earthly origin. Great, that's a point of evidence, but of course, we always have a contrasting idea. Nothing's set in stone. Very typical for the SHSAT. Then where is the crater? We have another question. Is it in Lake Chica? Another question. Or is the meteor reduced to dust? Another question. Can scientists rule out a comet carrying these elements? Another question. So many questions. The final conclusion here is the mystery remains unsolved. So again, we have many explanations. Some have evidence, some don't. We ultimately can't conclude one way or another. All right, so this is a sort of science passage written in the third person, telling us about the Tunguska fireball, how it was powerful, and possible reasons or explanations of what caused it. I think we're ready for the questions.